G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Draw with Jazza. I'm Jazza and this is the Let's Draw live video where I take your requests, you vote on them on my Twitch channel and I draw the picture based on your votes. So two things I want to say on the onset. If you want to join future Let's Draw live videos, make sure to click the link on the screen and in the description to go check out the Twitch channel and be there where I hope to do continual weekly streams. The second thing I want to mention is that these videos are now sponsored by Copic markers. Copic markers are fantastic alcohol-based markers and I've been hoping to get into these in future videos and use them a lot more, and it's another resource that I can provide for you guys to teach you some things about using these markers and making a cool result. So I'm going to use these in this video and hopefully you'll see a big difference in this video compared to some of my previous Let's Draw videos. So today I'm going to be drawing Harley Quinn from Batman. So this is someone that has been voted on by everyone and it's been a close call, but Harley Quinn came out on top. So I begin with really simple shapes just to get the blocking of this silhouette in. So for example here, I'm beginning with the head from a circle shape and adding the jaw, adding a direction line for the face, and slowly blocking in very softly areas of the body. So as you can see, I'm keeping my lines really soft, really rough, and then over time, I'm going to slightly add a little more pressure to the areas that I'm happy with, just to indicate to myself where things are going to be a little more refined, especially when I get to the line work. So as you can see, I'm already starting to really get things to kind of come together in a way that I'm pretty happy with. So I've got most of my anatomy figured out. I've got my expression started to be blocked out there, as well as the hair and the hammer. And I'm going to start doing things like the clothes and then adding a slight bit more detail, and then I'm going to get to the line work. Now her outfit, I'm going to go for sort of a hybrid between her classic Harley Quinn costume from the Batman TV show, where she sort of has that squared off top, but that goes into a full bodysuit. In this picture, I'm going to have it cut off at the legs, where we'll add a belt here, and we're going to give her leather pants, and the top will be leather as well, and we're going to give her full arm length gloves and a choker. Now for the line work, I'm using a 0.3 Unipin fine liner pen. And I'm just going to start off by really focusing on the line work I've already done with the pencil and just going over the major areas I'm happy with before I get into adding more detail and then sectioning off things for the dark black leather for the shading. So I've got my basic line work done now on Harley, and I'm going to use a kneadable eraser to erase the pencil work under the line work. The reason I'm using a kneadable eraser instead of this eraser is for two reasons. First of all, a standard eraser tends to smudge the ink if the ink isn't fully dry, which might take a little longer than you'd expect. And then the other reason too is I'm using very smooth paper for the Copic markers, which is called Express It Blending Card, which because it's so smooth would actually make that smudging more prominent. So with a kneadable eraser, I can actually kind of stamp the pencil work, or very lightly twist and rub, and then over time it will all come off. Now in this image, I'm actually going to divide the leather look on her top into 4 areas, and I'm just going to define those 4 areas now. So the first thing I'm going to do before I get to any of the Copic markers, which are going to make a huge difference, I need to lay down a good foundation. And to do that, I'm just going to use a standard fine liner pen, and I'm going to outline the areas that I'm going to color in pure black. Now something to keep in mind when you're creating a leather look is that there is a stark contrast between the lights and the darks. So I'm going to use this fine liner just to outline the areas that I will plan to have covered completely in shadow, and they are going to be filled in to be completely black. So I've gotten my base shadow down now, and you can see that we're starting to get that leathery look. And that's one of the most important things to do, is lay down a well executed sort of shadow area. Now the next thing we're going to do, like I said, is we're going to divide this into the color and the black leather. So I'm going to use the R29 lipstick red and the C4 cool gray as my base colors. And to lay down my base colors, I want to make sure I leave a few highlight spots completely colorless, just to make sure that I maintain that contrast between the bright highlights and the dark shadows, but otherwise cover the whole area. So we're going for a really comic book style effect with our shading here, and once we've got our base colors down, we're going to start mixing in other colors. Now, most of you will know that Copic markers blend. For those of you who don't know, they're an alcohol-based marker that when you add other colors, you can kind of mix them together and blend them to create a gradiented effect. So to show you what I'm talking about, I'm going to select a darker shade of red, and what I can do is just kind of place in, almost in a cel-shaded effect, the area that I want to shade in darker. And then when I go back to my base color, this lipstick red, I can go in here between them, and in these sort of circular motions, the alcohol will sort of begin to mix. And if I kind of go between the darker shade and then my original shade, and then leave it, you can see that once I kind of step back, just these two colors have blended already into this sort of gradiented effect between the top and bottom areas. So now I'm going to go throughout and add darker areas to the places that need to be darker, but I'm also going to go through and blend that in so we get that really nice gradient effect. Obviously, it can be quite difficult to control your strokes sometimes when you're using Copic markers, just because when working in fine areas of detail, sometimes we make mistakes. So first of all, we might want to kind of open up the areas that we previously had left to be highlighted that we might have gone over. And then the other thing that we can do that is really cool to do with a highlight pen and Copics after, when you're doing a leather effect, is to add highlights, and this can really help add that glossy effect. So for example, over here on the left breast, if I kind of go along that edge, that can really help bring that shiny effect out more. And then in certain areas, aside from refining the edges, I actually may want to add a little dot here or there just to show that we have a bit of shine happening. Now, I prefer to go over these areas a few times, at least twice in the one coat of the base skin tone color. That way I have a really solid color base to work with. Once I've gone over the entire skin area a few times and gotten a really flat color that I'm satisfied with, I'm going to grab my mid-tone and I'm going to start filling in the edges and the areas that I'm going to have darker. And I'm just going to do this as if I'm cel shading it and come back to blend with my lighter marker in a moment. Now, Harley Quinn has some makeup on her face, so I'm not going to touch her face anymore. With my darker shade, I'm just going to go on the lower half and start adding extra darker areas along the edges, and again going in that sort of cel shaded style, and then we'll come back to the face and add some extra contrasting makeup around the mouth and around the eyes. We're going to work with the textures of her hair and the hammer that she's holding behind her, both of which have pretty strong textures compared to the softer looks of the skin tones in the leather. Then once I've laid down the darker shade, I'm going to go back and just try and pull the colors up and down so that they make as much of a gradient as possible. Now that I've laid down all my base colors and done the blending that I need to do, I'm going to get some much darker colors and add with the chisel tip, with just a pointed part of the chisel tip, some very fine small areas of very thin lines to add that texture. Now, to further accentuate this texture, I'm going to get a really fine pen, a 0.1, and I'm just going to really lightly, in the areas that I've added the darker areas of texture, just kind of add little notches here and there to help accentuate the lines and the differences that I've drawn. So as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, I've nearly finished my image and it looks like it's almost done. Some might say it does look done, but one of my favorite things to do once I've done all this stuff is to add a nice thicker outline, and I'm going to be using a Pentel pocket brush, and this is actually a brush. It has bristles and ink in it, and so I'm really excited because I love using this thing, and I know that the finished result is just going to really pop out after I use this thing. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a long haul. I think this one took me about 3.5 hours in total to do from start to finish, but I really hope you enjoyed the process. And I'm really hoping you guys like the result because I'm thinking they might be bringing our Let's Draw videos up a notch or two in quality. So thank you for joining me. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed it. And the last thing to do is sign it. That's it for now, ladies and gentlemen. And until next time, I'll see you later.